Hello and welcome back to the channel. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking into the Chrome built-in AI challenge, but focusing on the actual APIs and how you can use them. If you haven't seen the first video yet, there's a link in the description. You have until the 4th of December to join this challenge, and there's prizes up to $12,000 across a number of different categories, but extensions are included in this competition. So in this video, it's a little bit different to the last one. We're going to look into how to actually use these APIs and a couple of ideas of a quick extension I put together just to show an example of the sort of things you can create. And I also sat down and chat with one of the judges on the competition to give a bit more insight into exactly what Chrome are looking for from this challenge. So first we're going to look into using the APIs and how they actually work. So you might be able to see up in the corner here, there are these buttons. Notice the little extension I put together. It basically uses the APIs to create this. So here you can see there's 3 questions here, and if I click onto one of these, it's going to send a response back and start streaming out the data here. Now this is a very, very simple approach to using it, but I wanted to show you how these APIs work. Now basically what's happening behind the scenes here is when we first load the page, it takes a moment to process this information. So it's taking the content of the page and sending it to come up with 3 questions. All that happens then is if I click on each of these other listeners, so if I click onto this one, it's going to send that question along with the content of the page and then come up with this response here. So like I say, very, very simple. But I just wanted to give a little bit of an idea of the types of things you can do with this. And it's really, really easy. So if we have a look at the code over here, this is the content script. It's basically just very simple vanilla JS here. And we'll go into detail actually when I show you the chat I had with one of the judges around there's no real difference in terms of how you structure the code. It's more about how you're thinking through the idea of what you're trying to create, what they're looking for. So the first thing that happens is when the page loads, we grab the content, the inner text of the page. One thing on that I'll mention in a moment. And then I'm just sending a message to my service worker here with the content of the page, just like that. And then in the background, you can see here, we're looking for this just here. And this is where we connect up and start using these models. So all we're doing is awaiting AI language model create. One more thing I want to mention before we look any further through the code is when you go through to add this, you'll first need to submit to get early access to use this. This is only in Chrome Canary right now. And once you get access, you'll get details and information on how you can actually enable this. There's a couple of steps you need to go through. So if you try to run this before you've gone through those steps, you will get an error when you try to actually set this up. And depending on exactly when you're watching this video, these namespaces are changing. So for example, this one used to be AI assistant. It's now AI language model. So make sure you follow the details when you get access around it. These might have changed since then. So basically what we're doing here next is we're setting a system prompt. Very similar to using other models. You just want to set up what you're actually trying to do here. And then I'm adding in a prompt here for this actual action. So you can see I have this text. And then this is where I'm passing in the content from the page. Now I'm limiting this. This might change by the time you're watching this video, but there's a limited amount of text you can put in here. So it's best to try and make this concise. There's a number of ways you can sort of get around this. You could use the summarize API, which is another option here. I'll put a link in the description to that and sort of push it down a little bit before you actually go to send this prompt. And then all I'm doing is using a session prompt and then passing in the prompt, and that'll come back with a response. I have a little cleanup function here, which just splits that response out into 3 questions based on what I'm actually trying to do. That's what that does. Very, very simple. And after that, we just send this back normal Chrome messaging with our questions here. And once I get those, you can see down here, I have my generated questions. Again, very, very simple code. We're just looping over this and then adding with vanilla.js these buttons with a click event on each one. So if these are clicked, we then create a new prompt. So we say, here's the question, whatever the question was, and then we just put the content of the page. Again, we're only including the first 1,000 characters in this. And then we just send a message to the background with that prompt. And then down here, this is what we do for that question. So again, this one's slightly different. We have our system prompt again, and we're using prompt streaming. So there's 2 different ways you can do. So up here, you can see we're just doing session prompt. So this waits until the full response is ready before it tries to send it back. With prompt streaming, we're going to get that, same approach you would normally see if using ChatGPT or something. As it types out, you get to see what the message is. You can have that same approach here. So if we were to go back over to this example and come back, when we click onto these, you can see first it's thinking, and then as the streaming is completing, we're adding more and more into here. So I have no styling applied on this really at the moment. It's just trying to show just the raw APIs and what's possible with these. You can also use something like this, which is the prompt API playground. So when you first get this enabled on your browser, it's worth going here. I'll put links in the description. So you can get a feel for the different types of ways that you can prompt things. And the source code of this is all available as well. So you can have a closer look at exactly how this works, how you can sort of tweak the ways the prompts. So you can see the extensions working on here as well. You can tweak the prompt and test it before you actually go to put it in the code, which is quite useful. So all I'm doing in here is once I get that, I'm just adding it. I'm using Markdown. That's how it comes back from this model, and I just convert it back into HTML. So that's a very, very simple example. Next, like I say, I spoke to Sebastian, one of the judges for the challenge, asking more information about exactly what the judges are looking for from this challenge. One of the main questions I wanted to look into is the types of things that the judges are looking for when they come to look through the extensions and decide, choosing between them. Are there any types of extensions in particular that people should focus on, or any that they should avoid?
So we don't really have a fixed set of rules. I think the things that we're really looking for is use cases, really interesting use cases, and kind of maybe there's one thing that people could avoid, and that is building a simple chat. So kind of that's for us the thing that we're really looking forward is kind of what are cool applications of these APIs that go beyond simple chat-based APIs. This is my personal opinion. I think the best applications of AI are the ones where I don't even realize.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for example, recently, and this isn't a demo one of our workspace team built, and they also used an extension for prototyping. And what they did was kind of make it easier to create calendar events from text. So what it would do is kind of you could select arbitrary text and then say now create a calendar event for this. Works really well. And I think these are the really great applications for these kinds of APIs because it solves a real problem. I think everyone struggled with the problem. Okay, so I've got this invitational email. It doesn't include a calendar invite. Now I have to manually enter dates and time, location, everything. Now it just magically works. And the effort to implement something like this is relatively low. I mean, if you compare this to how much work it would have taken you to implement this before we had LLMs and things like that. No, it's relatively straightforward. So I think these are the kinds of use cases that I'm personally really excited about. But I'm sure there's so many out there that I simply have no idea. I think the other really interesting applications are where it comes to solving specific problems. I'm sure there's so many other different use cases, sometimes really niche use cases, where these kind of tools can really help. And I'm really excited to see examples for this. And I mean, one of the reasons why we're doing this is because we want to see what kinds of problems people want to solve with AI. Because we're still experimenting a lot with these AIs. I mean, and you've seen that kind of we've got the general prompt API, but we've got also these use case specific purpose-built APIs. And here it's really one of the big questions for us, kind of what are good use cases where purpose-built API makes more sense? Because when it comes to having a model on the device, having a purpose-built model can work much better than having a relatively small general purpose model. So I think there's a lot of potential there. We have only see a small set of use cases that kind of we are aware of, but I'm sure there are so many more out there. So yeah, that's what we're excited about.
It's exciting to think about, really, because the first ones that come to my mind is sort of discovery of anything, really, and then you have when you're in creation mode and you've got the blank page trying to solve just that starting point. That feels like a big one. And then, like you said, there's so many individual use cases then for specific action.
Another example that I recently saw, there was someone posted an example where they've been using that you've been able to control the browser, navigating through the web by voice. And as you could say, show me the menu for this restaurant, and browser would magically open the website of this menu, and then would say, okay, now please order this dish, and it would work. And this is something that I found really mind-blowing in the sense of where AI was able to kind of open completely new ways to interact with web content and with the browser. And that's again something that really excited me. It didn't use the on-device models, but nevertheless, I found this a really, really compelling use case. And I was like, oh my parents really, that would make it so much easier for them to use the web if they kind of don't have to navigate, or kind of like basically this knowledge that you need to have on how websites work in order to be able to effectively use them. That's kind of something that you need to build up. Some people struggle with this. And I think that's, for example, another case where AI could really help. So yeah, that's kind of like the other big thing that we're looking for. Like, what are really kind of like mind-blowing applications of AI? Kind of like, what are completely new paradigms, how to consume the web that you could build with these APIs.
From a technical perspective, is there any limitations around, like, if someone wanted to build an extension using a framework like Plasma or something, or just Vanilla.js, would that have any impact on how it's judged, or is it just open, really?
No, that's really open. So we don't have any restrictions in this regard. I mean, so we might look at the code and we won't judge the code. So that's really not the point here. But if it's for us easier to understand and how APIs are used, I think that's, of course, that makes it a lot easier for us. So that's, I think, that's the only thing that I would say. It should be relatively clear from your code and how you're using built-in AI APIs. But apart from that, no, there are not really any restrictions.
Yeah, because that's interesting, because one of the questions you messaged me, I were excited to start building. The only person that had drawbacks was around where they had to like share the source code and make a video. But I suppose the way to look at it is more about how you're thinking about things more from a product perspective, I suppose, rather than a technical perspective, and thinking through exploring ideas. I suppose the question really is, like, are there any ways people could enter without sharing their source code, or is that sort of against the whole point of the challenge?
I mean, it's still the web. You will always be able to see the source code.
Especially with extensions.
Yeah, in particular with extensions. So I think I personally don't really see this as a challenge, because that's something that you will have to do anyway as soon as you put something out there. So that's something that we're not really concerned about. And again, like, we won't judge the code people write. We won't check if it's pretty code or not. That's something that we really don't care about. For us, it's really about the creativity and how they're using these APIs. Like, two recommendations I would give to people is, we have a mailing list for discussing these new APIs. So if people have questions, that's a really good place to ask any question that they have around these APIs. And we are monitoring these. And also there's a Discord that they can join for a Discord channel. It's a great place to ask questions. And Googlers are monitoring this as well. So yeah, you should get good answers to your question.
Yeah, I'm in that one. I'll share a link to both of those in the description.
Okay, so I hope that gives a bit more of an overview on the challenge and what Chrome are looking for in these submissions. I'll share snippets of this code so you can take a closer look, along with the API Playground and all the links we mentioned in our discussion there. If you've got any questions on getting started, feel free to leave a comment underneath this video. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.